Hi guys, I am back for our fourth language lesson of the week, and today we're going to be talking about subordinating conjunctions. And subordinating conjunctions are words that makes a clause or a part of a sentence dependent, which means it cannot stand alone as a sentence. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to look, I'm going to share the screen with you. And there it is. I'm getting better at this, guys. Your prayers are working. So a clause, let's look at the first part of this. Actually, we are on page 277 to 278 today. I'll give you a second to get there while I adjust this guy right here. Okay. So a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb. So another name for a clause is a sentence, and we call it, if it has a subject and a verb, we call it an independent sentence, but it's also called a clause. An independent clause has a complete thought, so it can stand alone as a sentence. So I'm going to look here. Independent clause, stand alone as a sentence. And I like to make sure I know what that means. I want you to think about this. When you are independent, you are able to do things on your own. You are probably independent in brushing your teeth, I would hope, and getting dressed in the morning. So an independent clause stands alone as a sentence. Look at the example they gave us. We will go outside. Is that an independent clause? Can it stand alone by itself in a sentence? It sure can. So let's look what a dependent clause is. A dependent clause does not have a complete thought. So it cannot stand alone as a sentence. So we know a dependent clause does not have a complete thought and cannot stand alone as a sentence. If you are dependent upon something, you can't do it by yourself. So now you guys are dependent upon your parents to drive you to school. But when you become teenagers in high school, you're going to be independent and drive by yourself. You'll be able to stand alone. But dependence is not being able to stand alone in a sentence. So I want you to look at this clause that they give you. When it is. What in the world? That does not make sense, right? A dependent clause begins with something called a subordinating conjunction. And this word when makes that sentence, when it is time for recess, that word makes that sentence so we doesn't have a complete thought. When it is time for recess, what? I don't know, right? It's not complete thought. Let's keep going. A subordinate conjunction joins a dependent clause to an independent clause. It's kind of like the magnet in between those two sentences. So a dependent clause, a subordinated conjunction joins a dependent clause to an independent clause to make a complete sentence. A dependent clause can come at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Okay. So it says when we go out, we will go outside when it is time for recess. That's your subordinating conjunction. It's actually joining two independent clauses. We will go outside, subject we, will go verb. So it's a complete thought. It is time for recess. Subject it is your verb. So it's joining those two independent sentences. When it is time for recess, we will go outside. When is a subordinating conjunction making this whole clause dependent, or this whole part of the sentence dependent. Let's look right here. It says an independent clause becomes a dependent clause if a subordinating conjunction is added to the beginning of the clause, just like we had here. We added, let me make this a little bigger for you so you can see. We added the word when. By itself, the words "it is time for recess" is an independent clause. It can stand alone as a sentence. But because we added this guy here, the when, it made it dependent, made it so it cannot stand by itself as a sentence. So some common subordinating conjunctions. Okay. After, although, as, because, before, if, since, though, unless, until, when, whenever, where, wherever, while. Those are some common subordinating conjunctions. And I know you guys know a little chant for that. So see if you can remember it when we meet together. I want you guys to see if you can tell me that little chant for subordinating conjunctions. So let's go ahead and start today's practice. It says, circle the subordinating conjunction in each sentence. Well, good thing we have a box right here that's going to help us. Then it says, write I if the underlined clause is independent, and write D if the underlined clause is dependent. That makes sense. Let's look at number 1. Although the Taj Mahal seems like a palace, it is a great tomb. Wow, that's interesting. So we have the words, although the Taj Mahal seems like a palace. What word do you see in there? Or think to yourself, can this stand alone as a sentence and be independent? Or does it have a subordinating conjunction to make it dependent where it cannot stand alone as a sentence? If you said the word although makes it dependent, you are right. And we're going to put a D on the line because that word although makes that clause or that sentence dependent. It cannot stand alone by itself. So let's go to number 2. Change my colors up. Number 2. When Emperor Shah Jahan's wife died, he built a magnificent building for her tomb. So let's look at the part that's underlined. It says he built a magnificent building for her tomb. Now, I want you to ask yourself, does that stand alone as a sentence? Is there a subordinating conjunction in that part, the underlined part of the sentence? Is there a subordinating conjunction making it dependent? If you said no, you're right. So this is an independent clause. It can stand alone by itself. But the first part of our instructions say, circle the subordinating conjunction in each sentence. Well, there is a subordinating conjunction. It's not in the underlined part. See if you can find it in the part that's not underlined. And you can always use this box up here. This box is going to help you. If you said when, you are right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Woohoo! Okay. Hey, gotta have a little fun, right? Number 3. The emperor wanted everyone to remember his wife because he loved her so much. That's very sweet. Let's look at the underlined part of this sentence. The emperor wanted everyone to remember his wife. Do I have a subordinating conjunction in that part of the sentence? You're right. No, I do not. So if I don't, the sentence can stand alone. And because it can stand alone, it is I for independence. Now let's look at the first part of our directions again. It says, circle the subordinating conjunction in each sentence. What word in this part of the sentence has a subordinating conjunction or is a subordinating conjunction? If you said the word because, you are right. So that is a subordinating conjunction. Let's keep going to number 4. That's a pretty picture of that Taj Mahal right there. I actually have a friend who just went there. It's super cool. I would love to visit there one day. Okay, let's look at number 4. She was buried in a nearby garden until the tomb was completed 22 years later. Let's look at the underlined part of the sentence. Until the tomb was completed 22 years later. Is there a subordinating conjunction in that underlined part of the sentence that makes it dependent? Or is it independent and can stand alone by itself? Read that again to yourself. What do you think? If you said it's dependent, you are right. And there's one word that makes it dependent, and it's the subordinating conjunction until. If we took this word out, if we took until out, we could say the tomb was completed 22 years later, right? And that's would make it right. Okay, so sorry, guys. It skipped off of there. I'm going to put it back on real quick. Oh, good. Okay, so sorry. So let's look at the last one. It says, before building could begin, talented architects made plans for the tomb. Let's look at the underlined part of the sentence. Before building could begin. Now, does that stand alone as a sentence? Is before building could begin, is that complete, or excuse me, is that independent? Or is that dependent because of a certain word? If you said it's dependent, you are right, and it's because of what word, what subordinating conjunction makes that part of the sentence dependent? It is before. Now, guys, I know these can be a little bit tricky for students. So ask yourself the questions that I'm asking you. Go back and see the order that I'm asking the sentences, and you will be able to kind of train yourself to ask the same questions when you're working these out. So let's go down to number 6 and 7. It says, use a subordinated conjunction to combine the sentences, add a comma when necessary. Okay. Number 6, the tomb was being built. 20,000 people worked on it. What subordinating conjunction could we use? There's actually 2 or 3 that we could use to make this sentence with a subordinated conjunction. What 3 do you think we can use? And you don't have to write all 3. I'm going to write all 3, but you really only have to write one of them. If you said while, as, or when, you are correct. So let's go ahead and rewrite the sentence together. While, and I'm going to actually put the other choices, as and when. You can choose one of those, okay? The tomb was being built, comma, because it has more than 5 words in the introductory clause. And if that's the case, then we put a little comma after it. 20,000, that's a lot. 20,000 people worked on it. It would be cool to go back in time and watch people build those things, right? Because they didn't have probably the modern tools that we have. So I think that would be really neat. Let's look at 7. The emperor was buried in the Taj Mahal. His wife was buried there. What do you think? What subordinating conjunctions, if you look back at the top of your page, your common subordinating conjunctions, what subordinating conjunctions do you think we could use? What do you think? If you said after, although, or because, you are correct. But guess what? We're not going to use them at the beginning of the sentence. Let's try using them in the middle of the sentence. The emperor was buried in the Taj Mahal. And I really like because his wife was buried there. Now, I thought that one was the one that made the most sense. You could have said, although his wife was buried there, or you could say after his wife was buried there. You could say either one. But I kind of like the word because. Now, I made a boo-boo, and we need a comma right here between Taj Mahal and because it's 2 separate sentences. Later on, next week, we're going to learn about those compound and complex sentences. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to pause, but don't pause yet, okay? When you go to the back of the page, which is page 278, when you do that one, apply and write. It says write 3 sentences about traveling on a specific place. Use subordinating conjunctions in at least 2 sentences. Challenge yourself. Maybe you're going to go to the moon, or maybe you're going to go to your grandma's house, or maybe you're going to go to the boardwalk or the beach, okay? Challenge yourself with those subordinating conjunctions. If you need to, look at the sentences that have already been formed and try to emulate them. Try to not copy them, but try to write sentences that are similar to them. The top part on the first section, you are going to do the same thing we did with our first section here. And then the second part of that is you're going to do the same thing we did with 6 and 7. So try that. Pause right now. Okay, hopefully you've paused. Now let's go over it. Okay, so same directions as the last ones we did. Number 1, if you travel overseas, that clause is dependent because of the subordinating conjunction if. Okay. Number 2, you can go by plane. That pause is independent because you have you and can go, and there's no no subordinating conjunction in that sentence. There is, but it's not in the underlying part of the sentence. And the subordinating conjunction that you should have circled is unless. Okay. Number 3, we have finding your way around a foreign country is difficult. Okay. So what does that stand as an independent clause? Yes, it does. And there is a subordinating conjunction in that sentence, but it's in the other part of the sentence, and it's the word while. Number 4, where you want to go. That doesn't seem right? It just doesn't seem like a complete thought. So you're right, it is dependent. And where is your subordinating conjunction? Number 5, although traveling is a lot of fun, it's like a cliffhanger. What? Although what? Tell me more, right? So it's a dependent clause, and our subordinating conjunction is the word although. Number 6, because it is sometimes over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Because is always an indicator, guys, that it's a dependent clause, and that is like a bing, 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 bing. That is a subordinating conjunction right there, because. Number 7, visit other monuments in Agra. That's independent because the subordinating conjunction comes after that. It's after. Okay. So I want you to look at 8 and 10, sorry. And what we could do here, what I did was this. So I combined them for you. I showed them where we could add them. If you think you did something different and you think it works when I talk to you later on this week, then we'll get together and you'll say, hey, I thought this, and we'll talk about it, okay? But number 8, we could have combined. Why, when, after, as, or while we drive from Delhi to Agra, we will visit the Taj Mahal. Oops, need a period right there. And then let's look at 9. You must take off your shoes before, as, if, or when you enter the Taj Mahal. You can use any 4 of those. And number 10, although, while, or though in some pictures the Taj Mahal is floating in the air, it really is sitting on a base of red sandstone. So remember, with your apply and write, I wanted you guys to use your imagination. Try to write sentences. I could say, although it is fun to travel to the mountains, comma, I prefer to go to the beach. Now, is that a sentence with a subordinated conjunction? Sure is, the word although. Okay, guys. So thank you so much. You're doing great this week, and I will see you later. Goodbye.